I basically spent about 4 years identifying as trans, various between male and various non-binary identities. So I started when I was 14 and I detransitioned in May this year. I used detransition, I never made a detransition, but I got very close. And so that's why I'm here. Sorry.
I'm Lena, and I was transgender for 2 years, and I recently changed my opinion about that drastically because I realized that it's more based on meetings on the other issues behind. And now I'm detransitioning, and I'm here, happy to be here. I'm Ellie. I come from Belgium. I'm 20. I identified as trans for about 4 years. I started testosterone when I was 16. I got a mastectomy shortly after. And about half a year ago, I decided to detransition. I realized a lot of things about the reasons that I started transitioning in the first place. And that's what brought me here.
Hi, I'm Lydia. Some of you might know me as Satan Hassan on Twitter. It was supposed to be a stupid joke, but I understand it now.
It's really stuck to the point that it's like, I lost my mirror. Where was the mirror? Oh, Satan took it. Like, it's stuck, but Lydia.
I was trans-identified for 5 years, and I began transition when I was 18, by which I mean like social transition. And I began medical transition when I was 20. I'm 23 now, and I regret all of it. And I'm here today to talk about the realities.
So, okay, I identified as trans for 6 years. I started medical transition at 17 and stopped this year at 21. I regret that.
So I guess it's one of those things of where do we start, isn't it? Is there anything particularly, we were saying earlier about having like one thing that we really want to get the message across about something. Did anyone have anything that they wanted to make sure they said before we sort of get lost in questions?
I feel like it's really hard to focus on one thing. It's like there's so much on my mind, but the words that stuck in my mind the most is reality. I don't know how to get into this topic, but I feel like for me, transition was a way to get out of my reality as a homosexual woman. Yeah.
I think we talked about this. I think it's true, like so much about escape and so much about So yeah, you're right. Like, I think so much about escape, and I think that's something that's important. And I would like to share is that dysphoria, gender dysphoria, is something that does not come from like yourself inside you because something's wrong with you, because you have an illness, when you're born transgender for some magical reason. It's something that is like put onto you in like society that has an effect on that. And it is to be taken seriously. Gender dysphoria is something that is there and is like to be taken seriously. But yeah, I think we, like us detransitioners, agree that medical transition is not the perfect solution to deal with gender dysphoria.
I'd like to talk also about the fact that often gender dysphoria is seen as a problem that is located within the individuals. For a long time, I thought that the problem was located within me. That I had to change myself because I was feeling bad in my own body, and I had to fix it somehow. And it took me a while to realize that actually it was all coming from the outside, and that I could fight against that rather than fighting against my own body and myself. And I think it's so important to look at this, to look at the external factors of gender dysphoria and try to find the best solutions for dealing with it when thinking about this.
And what sort of external experiences can you speak from first hand? Is there any particular story that sticks with you that you go, okay, this is a massive social pressure because of sexuality and whatever?
I guess there are a lot of things, a lot of situations, and it starts from, I remember when I was 15, I started not wanting to be a woman. I identified as a lesbian at the time, and I just couldn't picture myself in the future being a woman and growing up as a lesbian into adulthood. I just couldn't picture it, and I thought that because I couldn't picture that, then it meant that it was probably meant for me to grow up as a man, and I could picture that much easier. So I guess this had a big role, the fact that I didn't have any representation of masculine women, masculine lesbians around me, and always feeling in between somewhere.
Yes, that's a good point. And I think also, it kind of came up in the panel before, the fact that performing something that does not follow the gender expectations that are put onto you is incredibly hard in our society. I don't know, I shaved my hair at some point, and I got the comment with my father, oh wow, you're my daughter, not my son, and you're never going to find a boyfriend now. And it's just so much I don't know, I can't perform the expectation that's onto me. It's not me. What I associate with being a woman is just not me, and it's just not so many girls can't identify with that. And I think this is a big role in struggle of identifying as a woman, because if you see what is a woman, it's not me, but I think of the associations that
I absolutely agree with that. And I grew up in a pretty liberal family where I got told that it was okay to be masculine as a girl and as a woman, but I didn't see it in anyone around me. A lot of women in my family would tell me that it's okay to be masculine, but they were hyper feminine, and I didn't know any lesbians, especially no older lesbians. I knew nobody who I could really relate to. And I was exactly the same way. I just couldn't imagine growing up as a woman. And when I found out about transition being possible, it just clicked. It just made sense to me that, I can't see a future as a woman, but I can see one as a man. And it felt so right. But it's so obvious to me now how much of that is related to just not seeing a version of a woman I could relate to. And it's the same with homosexuality. I was never really aware of how ashamed I was of being a lesbian, because I was so supportive of gay people. So I never thought about the possibility that maybe I have internalized homophobia, because it didn't make sense. If I'm supportive of gay people, then I can't be self-hating. But now the more I think about it, I was accepting of the concept of being gay, but I couldn't imagine what my life would be like as an older gay woman. And I feel like that's what so many people are confused about with this, because society is getting more and more progressive on paper. But I think for many of us, our lived reality is very different. Yeah.
So, I don't want to put you on the spot because you agreed to do this in 30 seconds. Suki, can you relate to this experience in the same way?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine growing up as a woman. No one else was like nowhere. It wasn't really about being masculine, but like I was uncomfortable with my body, and I thought any other girl like showing her body and stuff.
So it's one of those subjects that it makes me sad because it's a shared experience. That like I was born 10 years earlier than you, but also the amount of women in the audience here who at this day were experiencing this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, that this doesn't seem to have changed. You'd think now, you know, that there would have been this societal progress. So what do we need? What do you think we should be doing in terms of gender dysphoria healthcare? Can you pinpoint the moment it went wrong? Or like, and I know it's an oversimplification of a lot of things, but what are we messing up the most with it?
I think for me personally, it was when I got online. I think a lot of people have a habit of blaming online, and we should just, it's my fault or whatever. But I think when I got involved in it, everything stemmed from that ability to go online and find anything that I wanted to find. So for me, when I was 14 and I was feeling very different, and I just relate to everything you all just said, I think I've never nodded my head so much. So when I went online and I saw all that and saw this possibility that, instead of being this thing I was terrified of, which not only was being a woman, but also as a lesbian, which I wasn't able to say those words because they scared me so much. I didn't even think it was possible for me to do those two things because it just wasn't in my brain. So being able to see these things online that basically gave me a way out of that was very reassuring. And yes, the whole thing about not having any representation around you or seeing it and people telling you it's okay, but not being able to see it in your real life, I think is a bigger problem than, because my mum often says to me, we never said that you couldn't be a lesbian or non-conforming or whatever, but as I say to her, it's not about what you said or what you did, it's the bigger picture, but as well, I never saw it. So I think it's just very interesting that we can all just get onto the online world or just go and source whatever we want. And I think it's worrying now that kids can go out even before going online. I think things have changed a lot in the last 14 years between when I started and where we are now. So I'm just concerned about that younger year and getting it before it gets caught. Because it changes the way you think and it changes your mentality, and I just think it's very dangerous. So I think maybe if somebody said to me at 14, it's okay, but not just only it's okay, show me it's okay. So I think there's a lacking of support for young girls in general, regardless of transition or gender issues. So I think that's why we need to that's what concerns me the most.
Something I'd like to mention is that I feel like what really also upsets me a bit is how this entire how the transgender movement is kind of been sold, the co-transition has been sold as so progressive and so freeing and good, and the only thing that I see now is doing is reinforcing those stereotypes. It's just And I feel like this is what's like where we were like we could start changing things. To see that it's been so eye-opening for me to see that like all I've been doing was like not identifying the stereotypes and then just being like, okay, so like when I fit in the other box, then I should live as the other box. And the idea that gender identity exists and that like, okay, if you can't identify as a woman, then you are not a woman. But the fact is I'm female, that makes me a woman. Yeah, so I think like something that could change is like just the idea that gender identity is not like it's just the identity like identifying with some certain stereotypes or boxes, and it doesn't change the fact that you don't need any like physical changes to be who you are to fit in.
I wanted to add that I don't have an answer to how we can work on this problem, and I'm not an expert on this or anything. I don't have a degree in psychology or medicine. I'm an artist. But yesterday I got to spend an amazing day and evening with Neda and Ellie and Charlie, and the whole time I just kept wondering, where have these women been all my life? And I think it could have prevented so much pain and suffering now had I had these women in my life earlier. Because yesterday evening it was just so normal to be a lesbian. And so normal to be a masculine woman. And I've never felt that ever. And like I said, it's easy to have rainbow stickers in your room, and it's easy to say you love being gay and love stuff, but it's really hard to actually live that. And I think it would do so much good already if we just had more representation of masculine women and lesbians.
I think it has been one of my concerning things that I have noticed that's a generation difference between us. Is at least in my day we had lesbian bars. Like we did have all women's spaces, and candy bars were awful, but it was a bar, and at least we had like this sort of place you could go. Whereas now I feel a lot of stuff is considered exclusive, like you're being excluding people by having a lesbian bar, or, you know. I worry that we're sort of losing the spaces, because the exact kind of place we would have met had it, you know, not been on Twitter a decade later, would have been sort of these all women's spaces, and particularly, yeah, the lesbians. Do you reckon? We're being very optimistic. That bring back lots of lesbian spaces and keep. That would be positive. So we're going to do another question. So, we didn't really discuss in advance what the boundaries of questions were, because we got really, really carried away with a cat. We were playing with a cat with the we didn't discuss anything that we were sort of meant to be preparing for. So, if there's any question I ask, I'm not comfortable asking, say it. In terms of surgery, I know that particularly for you, that it was more, I guess, extreme surgery that was the one that's caused those problems for you living now. Are you able to talk about that? You also tell me to shut up.
Yeah, I want to talk about it. That's my idea.
Just checking. I didn't even say I want to tell you to shut up.
I guess I don't know.
I guess maybe sort of like if you want like an overview of I guess what you had done, why you had it done, And so the effects of that are you?
Well, I had a double mastectomy and a hysterectomy and an ovarectomy, like removal of my ovaries. And well, the reason why I had that done was because I had gender dysphoria and because I really desperately wanted to come as close as possible to having a male body, even though I went into transition knowing that I would never actually get one. But I wanted to get rid of the female aspects of myself. It's really hard for me to talk about this. So I come from a background of having an eating disorder for a really long time. I developed anorexia when I was 15, and I'm recovered now, but I honestly still struggle with that sometimes. It's just so scary to me to realize how similar my anorexic thoughts were to my thoughts about my female body. And while I was trans-identified, I completely rejected that comparison. But to give an example, so when I was 16, I was severely underweight, to the point of nearly dying. And I got forced into treatment by my parents. And I remember thinking, if I have to gain weight again, I'd just rather kill myself. Because there's no way I can accept myself as at a normal weight, and there's no way I can accept myself at like the BMI I was at before, and I was so dismissive of my health. And in many ways, that's exactly how I thought about my female body. When I got my hysterectomy, I was so convinced that I was going to get phalloplasty later. There was like no doubt in my mind. And I thought, well, even if it causes health problems down the line, I don't care. I don't care if I die in surgery, because there's no way I can live as a woman, and there's no way I can live as a female again. There's no way I can go back to having a body that runs on estrogen. And like just the thought process behind it, being so dismissive of my health and being so focused on this goal of having the body I want, it's just exactly the same. And I often wonder how nobody realized that. No therapist I saw, no doctor I talked to about getting surgery, nobody in my personal life. And obviously now I'm really glad that my parents forced me into treatment for my eating disorder and that they didn't let me die. And I mean, I don't mean to be overly dramatic, because obviously I'm not dead. But I really wish someone would have been there to tell me to not get castrated at 21. I think that's
Have the same surgeries, and it just makes no sense to me that they remove important organs for an assumption that we will require artificial
something. I'm not going to be very blunt about this, and it's usually very important to me to be as polite as possible and considerate as possible of everyone. But I'm allowing myself to be blunt now. When we started this conversation, I said that the important word to me was reality. And the reality to me is that a hysterectomy and the removal of your ovaries doesn't make you any less female. So it doesn't make any sense to me why this is called transition or sex change, because it's not, it's castration. And now that I'm trying to care for my health as best as possible, I spend a lot of time on hysterectomy support sites and message boards for women. For women, because only women get hysterectomies, and only women deal with the consequences of a hysterectomy. So excuse me, but what the hell are surgeons doing? Calling this gender reassignment and gender affirming healthcare? Because my body doesn't feel happy anymore. And it's just crazy to me now to talk to so many women who've had hysterectomies and to realize that all of this really makes no sense at all. And even if I wouldn't have stopped testosterone, there are many women on hysterectomy support groups who don't want to take estrogen and only take testosterone because that's what works best for them, for their bodies, health-wise. And that doesn't make them men, it doesn't make them male, it makes them women who've had hysterectomies and now take testosterone. Just, what the hell are surgeons doing?
I have to just quickly say for anyone that thought the event finished at 6, it's now 6. So if anyone does need to disappear, it's fine. Obviously, we're going to go. Okay, so obviously, okay, we're talking elements in the room. When we voice this stuff, when we say this, we get called TERFs, a lot. And we also get told a lot that detransition is detransition because of societal pressure, people aren't being accepting enough of trans people and that stuff. We've never heard those stories. I don't know if you have. I've never heard anyone be trans because they weren't accepted as trans. Talking about the reasons to detransition, what was the process in terms mentally? Where did your thinking about it change? Because from what I've seen from speaking to trans women, is that it's not a conscious, so being trans wasn't right for me, I made mistakes, so I am going to now detransition. It's this whole thing is nonsensical, tends to be the realization. Would you say that's accurate? Would you, I don't know, I don't want to speak for everyone, but just
Yeah, so for me, it was, I'd say all of last year was when it started to slip. I was identifying as non-binary for the whole of 2018, and for me, that was because I realised that being a man wasn't going to work, obviously. And so being non-binary is I don't have to be a woman, which I'm terrified of, but I also don't have to do this male thing that makes no sense. So I existed last year all through trying to make it work because I wanted to make it work because I didn't want to face reality. And yeah, so it was probably about back end of last year, the beginning of this year, and I started to just realise that this isn't just going to work. It doesn't make sense, and I had to face up to the fact of liking women. So therefore, I was a lesbian, and I realised that that isn't going to work with the fact that I was identifying as non-binary, and I just couldn't smush the two together and exist like that. And I know it makes little sense, but I just knew I was a lesbian at that point, and I knew that, but I just didn't want to face it. And in a conversation with my mum just one day, all of this just randomly fell out of my mouth. Obviously, it's not random now looking at it, it was coming, but I just talked for about 2 hours, and I just said all of this stuff about how I felt like I had two paths I could go down. I could continue down this non-binary path and make it work, going to get double mastectomy and then laser in hysterectomy. Or I could go down this path of going back to being a woman. And thankfully I chose that path. And it wasn't an easy path to choose, but I'm glad I chose it, and this is obviously how I ended up here. I won't go into things forever because we've got a week, but I went to a talk in Newcastle in June, and that was the first time I'd immersed myself in any sort of positivity around being a woman. And it was a very hard decision. Sorry. I've just cried at the if anyone makes sense. Anyway, so that was my first time I ever immersed myself in any positivity around being a woman or being around a lesbian in any sense of the word. So I'm so glad that I made that decision, and obviously I won't be here right now like this. I don't know what camp I'll be on, but I will say one other thing actually. It's interesting because I watched that documentary, It's Time to Talk, last year, and I posted a Facebook post basically saying, don't watch this, it's full of turfs. Oh my god, and I was so angry after I watched that.
Same thing.
Yeah,
but
I was really worried.
I actually wrote a Facebook message, I believe that in case me and Stella are.
And I realised now that, thank you actually for that, because I think that was a turning point in my brain starting to think, okay, there's not logic in this, and that was obviously last year, so I have to say thank you now, even if I did call you a horrendous turf.
It took me a lot of years to start doubting about my transition, to allow myself to doubt about my transition, because when I started transitioning at the age of 16, I had to convince my parents to start transitioning. I was so convinced that it was the right thing for me to do, to feel better in my body, to feel better overall, and my parents were against it, and it took me not that long when I look back at it, but it felt like a long time to convince them to let me start transitioning. And I felt like it was me against the world. I was fighting against my parents. I was trying to explain to my friends why I wanted to do this, and I kept my time. I spent all of my time convincing people that I needed to transition, and it finally worked. And I never really allowed myself to doubt of it, because I was putting so much effort in convincing everyone that it was the right thing. And it took me years to finally allow myself to doubt, and it's very hard to now talk about this to those friends, to my parents, and say that it was actually not the best thing for me to do. And what slowly made me realize that I needed to transition was when I got into contact with this friend of mine who is in her 60s, and she's a radical lesbian, and we had a lot of discussions about the world, about society, about being a lesbian, about being trans, and I realized that I agreed so much with her, and all of a sudden it didn't make sense to me that I transitioned. All of a sudden I realized that, as I said earlier, that my dysphoria came from the outside, and it didn't make sense for me to keep on altering my body, and I was concerned about my health for the first time. When I was 16, I never thought of this. I never
considered that could be dangerous for my health. I didn't care. But all of a sudden this became a concern for me, and at another turning point where I decided to detransition was when I tried to enter a lesbian basketball team. I used to play basketball a lot when I was a teenager, and I had to stop when I started transitioning because of the hormones. And I always wanted to get back. I hated playing in male teams. I never felt comfortable there. So I tried to join this lesbian team, and I felt so good there. I looked around me and I felt so good there, and I looked up to the other players, and then I thought, why do I feel so good here? This is what I wanted. This is what I needed, actually. And but all of a sudden now I realized that I made wrong decisions, and I don't belong. I don't feel like I belong here. They don't feel like I belong here, but I feel like I belong here. This makes sense. And at that moment, I realized that altering my body and being seen as a man doesn't change the fact that I'm still a lesbian. I might be a lesbian who is living socially as a man because people see me like this. It doesn't change the fact that I grew up as a girl, that I'm attracted to women, and that I'm female, and that makes me a lesbian. And, so that was the turning point for me when I decided to detransition.
How about you? What was your sort of reason for detransition?
Like it was kind of, I mentioned before, like I just was kind of interested by Ellie as well, because she started thinking about that, and so it made me think too, and at some point I asked myself, okay, so just theoretically, if I wasn't born transgender, why do I want to transition? Why do I experience gender dysphoria? And I realized it is very closely linked to my eating disorder, and the fact that I've always hated my body, like, especially like when puberty started, and started very early for me at the age of 9. I learned that my breasts have to be hidden. I learned that I suddenly was too big for everything, and it started to feel too fat, too round, too feminine, and I realized that this is all so linked to like gender dysphoria, and the way it's very similar as well to like the way I ate my body, like with this eating disorder, and this is something that I find very insane, what I kind of mentioned, like with being called is that now like I've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria by a therapist, by like 2 psychiatrists, like several people diagnosed me with gender dysphoria, and the symptoms were exactly the same. I hated my human body, I felt it was horrible being seen as a woman, and I wanted to get rid of my breasts and my hips. And and now that I transition, there are several people telling me that I never experienced gender dysphoria, and that I just never had this, and I've never been trans. And we both, Ellie and I, started a project post-trans, and which is a project where we ask detransitioners, female detransitioners, to tell us their story, and we share it, and they give it an audience, give representative of like their art and fact detransitioners, and just share their stories in like very neutral, without giving any judgment or anything. And it's insane how many messages we receive of how many comments there are like in social media of people saying, oh, but then it wasn't gender dysphoria, or this person was never trans. And that's just insane, especially because there's so many in the trans community. It's so common to say, if you question your gender identity, it's a good sign that you are trans, or if you experience gender dysphoria, the only thing that will ever help you is to transition. And then if there are people saying, but no, it didn't help me, then they're like, oh yeah, but then you never were trans. It's just like trying to push everything in this one narrative, but that doesn't make sense. And that's where I realized, okay, it doesn't make sense, and I do like I had a mastectomy, and I have to say that I do not regret this decision. It helped me because I was experiencing incredible hate towards my breasts, and now I don't have them anymore, and the hate is gone, of course, but it helped like with the symptom and not with the underlying problems, and like my eating disorder disappear, or like other problems in my depression, like it's just helping the symptom, and yeah, so if you are like interested in we have some postcards like right at the exit with some quotes of stories that have been told to us by several transitioners, and you can like take some with you as a donation box to some future project that we're planning, and
Sort of talking a little bit like along the lines of how social media at the moment is treating detrans women, or detrans women particularly, I'm sure also detrans men maybe. I've noticed that some of us are slightly feeling the need to prove stuff. I know at least one of us, was it either posted a photo of testosterone after this horrendous, like, you were never taking testosterone, like, I had a hysterectomy, like, it wasn't playing around with gender, it was serious years into it. I guess my question is, like, how are we, is it important to be fighting this, like, publicly in this way, to sort of say, yes, we're allowed women around? Or should we be going sort of medical route and getting doctors and a way to report detransition? Like, or do you think social media is changing perceptions of what detrans means?
Like posting on social media will help other people realize that they can get the transition to it they have.
The example is both, like, you need both.
Like the two-pronged attack on getting a story done.
Yeah, I feel like it's incredibly important to get these stories out because I really never heard of detransition when I was transitioning. And yeah, I really thought that, well, if you have real gender dysphoria, you're not going to regret transition. And here I am. And to answer the earlier question about what made us detransition, for me, the biggest reason was that transition simply didn't help me. Like, I passed as male, I got treated as male, and that felt really, really good. But then I went back home and could look at myself in the mirror, and I still didn't see a man. When I look at my body, I realized that I'm never going to see a male body. I'm never going to see a man's body. So, why am I doing this? Like, for me it was a kind of a slow process of realizing that my dysphoria is still here, and at the time I thought my only option was to like keep going and to just hope that phalloplasty is going to change things for me, even though once I actually like researched this horrendous surgery, I realized that it would never actually give me a penis. But I didn't know that there was like anything else I could do to treat my gender dysphoria. I guess for me it was like, I'm repeating myself all the time, but for me it was about do I want to live in reality? Or do I want to keep trying to tell myself I'm a man, even though deep down I don't actually believe it? And there are many people who would maybe call this internalized transphobia and would say, oh, but trans men are men, and if you get these surgeries, you are transitioning to male. But I'm sorry, I just can't believe in it anymore. And it took so much energy to constantly surround myself with other transitioning females and to keep reassuring myself that I am a man and it doesn't matter what my body looks like. But I realized if I don't have these people, I'm just going to be stuck with my reality of being female and being a woman. So why don't I just try accepting that for a change? And obviously it's really, really hard, but so is surgery. And at least I'm not messing up my health anymore.
I was just going to say back on the social media thing. I do think it's really important that we have got a platform now. I have noticed quite a drastic increase in the amount of detransitioners speaking out. And I think it's an important stepping stone to be able to get any sort of platform at this point, before we can get anywhere in any sort of medical side of things. So I think what we've got at the moment is very useful, and as much as I have been called a liar 3 times this week, and it's having a voice somewhere so that these young, teenagers really can see it just in the general when they're on Twitter, because you never know, it might spark something, but yeah, I think it's just important that we've got that platform at the moment and just take what we've got.
I think it's so important for the transitioners to speak out, to counter the narrative that only physical transition can be helpful to gender dysphoria. Because there's this strong narrative that if you have gender dysphoria, you need to transition physically, otherwise you're very probably going to kill yourself. And it's putting so much pressure on physical transition, and I can see it in my own experience that I genuinely thought that was the only option for me to continue living. And it just makes me mad now when I think of it, that I never was given the option of accepting my own body the way it is, the way it was. We just don't offer this option for people with gender dysphoria. We take their agency away from their own struggles, and that's a real issue. I think people experiencing gender dysphoria deserve much better than this. They deserve much better than experimental treatments, and they deserve the chance to accept their body the way they are. And I think by talking about our detransition experiences, hopefully it's aiming towards this.
I think, I don't know if you have the same in Belgium, but I think something that's interesting here is that if teaching or encouraging acceptance of one's own body here is considered the gay conversion therapy, but a mastectomy, hysterectomy, and testosterone is considered becoming your real self. Is that something you're seeing, in Germany as well? I'm gonna sorry.
Yeah, I guess the entire mentality that's behind within the movement. It's so insane. There's so much. In Germany, there's currently discussion of forbidding conversion therapy for homosexuality, which is good stuff. And now the equally lives recently been changed to also forbid conversion therapy for transgender people. And yeah, so it's like a bit tricky because then it's like directly, okay, what is conversion therapy for trans people? And telling them to not medically transition because I'm quite sure that this is going to be what it's like. And then it's really dangerous because literally the law is forbidding people to decide another path and medical transition whenever they experience gender dysphoria. So indeed, there's quite a big risk.
I think it's really ironic, it's to me, at least, I think if there is any gay conversion therapy of our time, it's this, because I always hear
something, I don't know if I'm going off topic with this, but something I want to add is that in my personal experience, it's like surgeons are pushing you towards more surgery. At least is what happened to me. I woke up from my hysterectomy and the nurse commented on the appearance of my chest. I had already had my mastectomy at the time, but it looked kind of botched. And she just asked me which surgeon I went to and if I want a revision done with the surgeon at their hospital. And when I left, after my hospital stay, they gave me this, what's it called in English, flyer, I guess, like this, for plastic clinic. And even with my mastectomy surgeon, when he asked me when I'm going to come back for my checkup appointment, he was asking, maybe I can make an appointment with the phalloplasty surgeon in that same city, so I can combine the trips. And it was just expected that I was going to go the whole way, and it's incredibly scary to me that we are having these invasive surgeries. Let's not fool ourselves. Mastectomies are tough. Hysterectomies are brutal on a female body. And we're not even expected to mourn our lost body parts, because obviously we hate them and obviously we're going to be happy. If we're even encouraged to plan the next surgery, it's just crazy to me how now we live in a time where body positivity is all around now. Yes, where we treat gender dysphoria as the exact opposite of body positivity. It's radically changing the body, dismissing health.
So that's basically us done. I told you we'd get up here and it would feel 5 minutes, and it would feel like we could go on for another week. But is there any sort of closing points you'd like to say, particularly maybe Susie or is there anything you'd like to end on? Too many things. I think we'll have to do this again, aren't we?
Yeah.
I guess what I want to say is that I don't hate trans men and I don't hate women who hate their female bodies. But I hate that young women are getting castrated.
Yeah. You know, there's a general. I'm really upset. You're the age of our kids. I can't believe that you haven't had people around you to help you, to not be where you are now, to be feeling the way you feel. It's awful. You know, when you say we've got kids your age, I can't imagine if they have to go through any of this.
Well, I'm glad that I banned my daughter from going on social media at the age of 13 because I think it's 7 years ago we've allowed us to go on social media the way it should have done. We would be sitting as parents in your situation at the moment.
We thought our teenage years were awful. You know, probably mid-20s. Our first child, I was 19, Joe was 17. I was nearly 30 before I was happy with myself.
Yeah,
you know, I can't believe you sat there at the ages you're at, and that people have done this to you and allowed it to go on. And there's this general perception these days that everybody should be able to do whatever they want to make themselves happy. And this is why you've got surgeons saying, well, you know, we'll do this for your neck, we'll give you a phalloplasty next, you should be happy, because they think it's what you've asked for. And they think that they're doing what you want, but it's horrendous. It's horrendous, and when you say, where do we need the platform next, you need it everywhere. Yeah. I've kept well away from all this. I was meant to be the taxi driver tonight, and I'm glad I came in, to be honest.
We're going to close it there and go to the pub. We're not going to take questions. It's only because we would like to say, do you want to comment?
I just wanted to say I'm in agreement with the fact that these surgeons are the perpetrators and they should be put in prison for doing this. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to close now. I think the thing I'd like to end on, obviously these conversations are really bleak. Obviously this is shit. Sorry, I'm talking. But I'm so pleased that we do have a strong sisterhood community. And good evening.